And now as we move on to the last talk of the day, I want to give a little bit more background. So we've actually shown results from PHaRLAP for a number of HamSCI workshops. And again, this has been only because of Manny's efforts to work with the Australian Department of Defense to allow this software to be used by the general community. And that's no small feat. So I mean, for him to make that available and for them to make that available, you know, we're very grateful. But one of the things people have asked is, you know, I would like to be able to use this for my own studies with amateur radio. And one of the problems is that it's written in MATLAB. And MATLAB is wonderful, but it does have a license cost. So you can get PHaRLAP for free, but MATLAB has a license cost. And so a lot of amateurs and even a lot of researchers are not necessarily able to afford that license cost, or in my case, I happen to write everything in Python, so I'd rather work with an open source Python license. With Manny's cooperation and with help from Bill Lyles and from a former student, Josh Vega, we got permission to develop open source Python wrappers for PHaRLAP. So the core code you'll find out is actually black boxed. So that's, you know, proprietary classified information, and they provide these compiled what are called MEX files, and that have the compiled code. And then what you can do is you can't see what's inside of that, but if you call it properly, you can use it, and that's what we're allowed to see in the unclassified world. So we've gotten permission to write Python wrappers for that. And so my graduate student, Alex Calderon, who will be graduating with a master's degree in software engineering from the University of Scranton in May and then going to work for Amazon, congratulations, is doing for his master's project porting the wrappers to Python. And so he will talk about that, and then this will be available in the near future to the amateur radio community.
Hi, like Dr. Frizzell said, I'm Alexander Calderon, and I'm working on the wrappers for the PHaRLAP code to make this open source for Python, which was a terrifying thing to have to sit through because I've never had to see Dr. Cervera's presentation for this before. But my presentation is on the ray tracing in Python utilizing the PHaRLAP engine, and I'm going to walk you through what that means and a couple of other things, and hopefully I don't stumble too far. Sorry? Oh, okay.
Keep talking.
Oh, no, it's okay. I got this. Yeah.
Screen 2. Share screen 2.
Screen 2. Where is this? Stop share. Screen. Oh, it's right here.
No, we have screen 2.
Oh, you want me to show the entire thing?
Yeah, now go to. Good.
Awesome. Okay, technical difficulties are over right now, so let's get to it. So this is my outline for the presentation and what we're going to be looking at. We're just going to talk about what PHaRLAP is, though I feel like I should skip that given that Dr. Cervera just went over the entire thing, which I was expecting, but I'm going to be talking about what it is for my purposes and what those MEX files look like from the Python side and the wrapper side of what it is. Dr. Frizzell actually went over why we're making a Python implementation of PHaRLAP right now, being that we just want to bring this extremely powerful toolbox from MATLAB to a wider audience so that everybody, even hobbyists or students like myself, are able to access it and play around with it and just mess around with things and learn how it works, what to do with it, and maybe bring the community of PHaRLAP more people, since 500 people is a lot of people, but we want to give Dr. Cervera much more people so that he's able to debug everything, get as much testing done as he wants to, and implement anything else that he sees fit to or sees fit to share to. And then I'm going to be talking about my structure of PHaRLAP, what the project looks like, what the structure of it looks like, and how I went about creating these classes. Because it was some undertaking, because I didn't actually know any MATLAB when I started this project, and I also didn't know any Python, and I knew very little C. And then I'll just be showing you a bunch of different plots to show similarity between my implementation of PHaRLAP and Dr. Cervera's implementation of PHaRLAP, so that you could see that I actually did the work that I'm saying I did. So going over the introduction, PHaRLAP is just a free toolbox for MATLAB that you can use to ray trace through different things. The example that I'll show after this slide is an implementation that or an output that we used for the 2017 solar eclipse that was over Scranton at the time. And it's supposed to be a video, but I'll just show you guys later. It's freely accessible through the Australian DoD department under PHaRLAP. And why we're making the Python implementation, as I said before, we just want to bring it to a much wider audience and give the tool to as many people as possible. So this is an output from the MATLAB code that I wrote when I was trying to figure out exactly how PHaRLAP was working and different ways that I could do things. This is an example from the 2017 solar eclipse. This red line just represents a receiver and a transmitter and them having a path between each other. This is supposed to be a video to show that the ionosphere is having anomalies that kind of look like a bowl at some points. Because it was downloaded into a PowerPoint, it is just a picture, though. But it's a very pretty graph. It's one of my favorites, actually. As for the methodology, PHaRLAP is made up of, originally PHaRLAP is made up in MATLAB of MEX files, .so libraries that are Fortran code. And depending, it also comes with C source files or MATLAB source files for the wrapper classes, and then just the regular user-facing MATLAB code. So what I went through and had to redesign was the user-facing code, which I ported over to Python. And then as for the wrapper classes, they are written in C. They're C source files that have been implemented into a Python module so that they're callable from the Python user-facing code. And like I said, those Fortran files are .so libraries. Dr. Cervera actually mentioned that those .so files are precompiled into MEX files, which are callable from Python, which is how I'm able to use those Fortran .so files, .mex files, and calling them in my Python environment. So the project structure is just three simple file structures. So I have the user viewable Python code, which is the stuff that allows the user to be able to generate their ionosphere, ray trace through that ionosphere, and then finally plot everything together. And I have functionality for both 2 and 3 dimensions to be able to do that now, which I wasn't sure that I would be able to finish the 3-dimensional for this presentation, but I was able to get everything together. Like I said, the C source file Python modules, which were kind of tricky to handle, and then the Fortran.so files, which are the MEX files that were converted over to the precompiled functions. And very roughly, it looks like this. So the Python, the C modules, and the Fortran static libraries, and then the calls that I make throughout from my Python code. And then next, we're just going to be looking at some examples of the ray traces that I've done in both 2 and 3 dimensions. So for the 2-dimensional code, this one is the example results from PHaRLAP itself in MATLAB code. It's very pretty. It's more of the simple graphs that Manny's provided, just to make sure that everything works fine. And it's one of the base cases that I used in developing my Python code. So this is the MATLAB one, and here is the Python one. Pretty similar, right? I was very happy about that because that took so much time to be able to pull off. And as you can see, we have all the rays going nicely. I went through and titled everything to make sure that what I was looking at was accurate. But this was the implementation that I had for the 2-dimensional code, and then I was able to move on to the 3-dimensional code, which also included a 2-dimensional plot as one of the bases, or base cases. And this is one of the 2-dimensional plots for the Python implementation of the 3D ray trace. It's a very pretty graph. I like this graph a lot. But there's also the MATLAB version of this, which, similar to the other one, looks almost exactly the same, minus some plotting that it was just part of matplotlib, the differences that you're seeing there. And finally, the juicy stuff is the three-dimensional ray traces that took a lot less time to pull off than the two-dimensional because I knew what I was doing by this point. So here we have the O mode, the X mode, and the no-mag field. And they are essentially the same. And I was able to pull that off decently well. The arrays were difficult to handle because I've never managed that kind of data at that scale. But I was able to figure everything out and manage it correctly and get everything down well. And that's mostly thanks to Manny's documentation, which was so well done. And as for my summary, the future work, this isn't done, and it's not available to be distributed as of yet because I still have some work left to do for it. But I just have a refactor and then a reintegration of the system to finish up to make everything nice and pretty and scalable and maintainable, which is the most important bit, in case somebody else wants to take a crack at my wrappers or add more functionality to it, or in case Manny decides that he wants to add different files or change the structure or calling functions, anything like that. And I was told to tell you guys that the release date would be announced after more beta testing on the HamSCI, Reflector, CDAR websites. And that's pretty much it for my presentation. Thank you so much. Oh, yes. I'm also doing a live demo of my wrapper code tomorrow if you guys want to see that.
You have a question on Zoom from Jonathan Rizzo, and he asks, sorry, the chat moved. Did those Fortran libraries require the new Fortran libraries to run? GNU. Fortran.
Sorry?
Did those Fortran libraries require the GNU Fortran libraries to run?
No, I don't believe so. I used the exact same ones that Dr. Cervera has for his original code, so I didn't need any new Python Fortran libraries to run that.
Yeah, Manny, go ahead.
Yeah, I thought I'd just jump in there. So to answer that question, the Fortran library is all statically linked. So it's actually compiled with the Intel Fortran compiler, but everything's all statically linked in there. So yeah, you shouldn't need to download anything else. The exception is, I think, under Windows. So I supply Mac, Linux, and Windows versions, but for some reason I couldn't get the Intel Fortran libraries to be statically linked with Windows. So in that case, you need to follow the MATLAB install notes, where it describes where to download from the Intel Fortran website their redistributable libraries. But once you've got those, then it should all work under Windows as well, equally well.
Thank you.
What version of IRI are you using?
There's a couple different versions.
Exactly.
Yes. No, I mean, there's a couple different versions active in the code.
Oh.
I've restricted it down to 2016 for right now, I believe, but there are options to take in 2012 and different versions of it.
Able to afford MATLAB license. So for other independent researchers and universities in developing countries where MATLAB license would not be easily available, this is a very welcome and heartening development, I would say. Thank you. Thank you for good work.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions? Any more questions on Zoom? Comments?
Is there a runtime variation of MATLAB? MATLAB and IDL are very similar environments. IDL has a runtime variation of it. Is there a runtime version of MATLAB? Because if there is, then you wouldn't need a license like he's talking about.
There is a one-time version of MATLAB, but PHaRLAP doesn't really have a GUI. It expects you to go in and write code. So that's why you need the MATLAB license. And when he shows you the demo tomorrow, you can see how it calls IOI and everything, and that's actually done by the code you write. It's simple, but you have to write it.
I can tell you I have plans on using this for doing traveling ionospheric disturbance comparison of model data to amateur radio data. So that's my personal interest in all of this.